Everyone, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. We got to talk about the Timberwolves. They lost to the Los Angeles Lakers, and if you watch the game, they shouldn't have lost. But this is a trend, or is it a mirage? 19 times they've had the lead of 10 plus, and they lost those games. 19. You win 19 games, you're the number one seed in the Western Conference. So with that 10 plus lead, you look at the Vikings and what they did every time they had a close game. The Timberwolves, every time they had a blowout game, they couldn't keep it. Who do you blame? Is it the players or is it the coach? We'll talk about that next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On Sports. And you can make every moment more. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to get started today. Well, of course, in today's show, like I said, we're going to talk about the Timberwolves. We're going to talk about the coaching situation. And then I got some fantasy football drama. It's before the draft, so of course it's going to change because we know there's going to be some quarterbacks drafted, so that might change fantasy football. There's going to be some receivers drafted to teams that might elevate a quarterback. There's going to be some defenses that get a lot better in fantasy. But there's a conspiracy out there already. There's a narrative in the NFL already when it comes to fantasy. And mathematically, the math just ain't mathing to me. So we got to talk about that. But remember, you can download Amazon Fire or Roku. You can download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on Amazon Fire or Roku. Just go to your Amazon Fire or Roku device, search Locked On Sports Minnesota in your apps, and then you can download it'll be right there. It'll be a little box right there on your TV, depending on how your TV's set up. Mine, I know they go across for Amazon, and then for my Roku, it's a nice little group of boxes. You can search it right there, and then you can watch all of our shows right there on your TV. But as I bring Sam Ekstrom to the show, my producer, Sam, we got to talk about the Timberwolves. It's of course it's trending because one, I do want to say this. I want to get this out the way. Jimmy Butler was super petty about the Timberwolves because they asked him about his time in Minnesota or something like that, and he said, "Of all the places you're going to ask me, you're going to ask me about Minnesota." And then you did make the joke saying he was here for 60 days. but with that, you can't talk that mess. Be the 7th seed, host at home, and lose to the Hawks. So now the Heat have dropped down to the 8th, and they have to host again to try to hold on to the 8th. Or Jimmy Butler could be at home chilling, but also could the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, though, did go on the road. So as far as losing to the 7th seed, that's how it was supposed to happen when you look at the grand scheme. The 7th seed should beat the 8th seed because you've played better throughout the season. And I put out a tweet yesterday. It's still going right now. That's 3 Ron Johnson on Twitter if you want to put your idea, because at this point now you're going to get what you want. But I tweeted yesterday and I said, I just did a poll and I said, who would you rather play? The Grizzlies or the Denver Nuggets? And I just kind of put it out there because I wanted to see early on, because people were joking about who's tanking for who and blah, blah. Right now, 71% of the people say they'd rather play the Grizzlies, and then 29% said they'd rather play the Nuggets. There's 9 hours left on this poll. But one person did comment, because there's some comments. He said depends on the team. So I get that. Like I do get that. Depends on which team. Like if you're the Lakers, do you want the Grizzlies or do you want the Nuggets? If I'm the Lakers, I probably want the Nuggets. Like when you look at how the Nuggets are constructed and how the Lakers, and watching the Lakers play, and LeBron looks rested. I get the whole load management. LeBron looked rested. He looked fast. He looked good. His three-pointer, I mean, I feel like I've never seen LeBron that accurate in threes. But they just, like, they didn't win that game. I feel like the Timberwolves lost the game. Like the Lakers, as good as they looked down the stretch, they didn't win that game. The Timberwolves won. I think if Rudy Gobert plays, I don't know if that offense looks as Like that offense looked at one point super efficient. They were moving. I heard Reggie Miller saying, look at all the cuts and the movement and the picks. And man, everybody's where they're supposed to be. And then the last 5 minutes of the game, he's like, where's that offense at? Where's it? What are they doing? They're just giving it to one guy and everybody's getting out the way. Like they weren't doing the same offense. And just like the Golden Gophers hockey team with LaPanta, we talked about that. Like, I don't know if you on purpose sit back in your zone and you don't attack. Like the Vikings, you sit back and prevent defense, you have the win. The Gophers football team with Glenn Mason and bowl games when you're up. I don't know if you just decide to run the ball and punt just to say, let's run the clock out. Let's just run, punt, run, punt. It doesn't work. Just keep attacking the way you did. And I felt like the Timberwolves won. I think Anthony Edwards, he was not, and I get it. Shooters are going to shoot. The best player should always try to, but at some point you got to realize, like, that's the one thing I hate about like pickup basketball sometimes. If there's a guy on your team hot, feed him the ball. Because these are win or go home games in pickup basketball. So you got to try to score, get to 15 first. And so when you think about that, get it to the guy hitting the ball. Anthony Edwards wasn't hitting the shot. And he kept shooting three after three after three. When there's another guy wide open, even at the end, that steal at the end of the game, who was in the corner?
Torian Prince.
He could have hit that shot. If you look to the right, Mike Conley was to the right. That's where you go. You go to the hot hand because, in my opinion, I think he would have caught it. Conley was cool, calm, and collected. He would have caught it. He would have faked D'Lo up because D'Lo wasn't even paying attention to what was behind him. He was worried about what was in front of him, which was Torian Prince. But if you kick it you look left, kick it to the right, Mike Conley probably has time to just get the shot up, or he fakes D'Lo in the air and he just pulls it. But he shot one over Anthony Davis. He shot one over a couple people. And then the way the game ended, you make those three throws, and then you go to overtime and lose by 6. So in my opinion, and I'll ask you this, Sam, with all of that said, this is the 19th time they've had a 10-point lead late in games, and they've lost. I said this earlier. The Minnesota Vikings, I don't even remember, was it 11 one-score games or something like that? They were like they won them all, or they were 10-1. I don't remember what the number was for football season, but everybody, Peter Bukowski, everybody's, this team is a fraud. This team is a fraud. They won those games though. If the Timberwolves had won 19 games being up 10 or 19 close games, I don't know if we would even care. We would just say, man, they won 19 more games than they were supposed to, and they're now the number 1 seed in the West. The number 1 seed in the West, Sam. That's all it would have taken. You win, and again, you don't have to win every single one of those games. But in your opinion, Sam,
yeah,
is this on the coach or the players?
I think it's easy to fling your arrows at the coach, and I think he's partly responsible. You have to draw something up. You have to draw up a set and get these guys out of a funk when the offense is stagnating. But I think it's personnel and then lack of personnel. Cat, once he got 5 fouls, got super tentative, Ron. Like on the defensive end, he was just turtling. He didn't want to get that 6th foul. And it seemed like he clammed up on the offensive end too. He didn't want to charge into somebody. He didn't want to attack the basket the way he was earlier in the game. So that's a little bit on him. And they didn't have Rudy for any post-up situations. They didn't have Nas, who's kind of instant offense. So when you are struggling on offense, the best way to do it is to get the ball down low and attack the basket. And they didn't have the bigs to get that job done. And Cat was nervous about fouling out of the game. I think that's partly why they just sucked in the 4th quarter and overtime. Conley was, and he was the hot hand, but he was trying to do a little too much with the ball sometimes too. Edwards was shooting too much. And then the guys that were hot earlier, Anderson and Prince, everybody cooled down just at the worst possible time. They were exhausted. They tired out. Really, really frustrating though to be up by 15 in the second half and lose that game.
Yeah, the biggest problem is when LeBron was out, they were able to bring the game like within 7, and then they brought it within 5 with just Anthony Davis out there. So that's the problem with this team. And that's why I totally agree with, we had James Theus early on in the year from Syracuse. And he said they need another like McCullough type guy. And last night they kind of got that production out of Conley. Like he had 23, karl-anthony Towns had 24. Our what's in the fridge guys, Kyle Anderson, Taurean Prince, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they all actually played well. Walker got 11. Taurean Prince got 14. My guy and your guy Kyle Anderson had himself a day. 12 points, 13 assists. 12 points, he was 5 rebounds away. Wow. Like if I'm him, I'd throw up 5 missed shots at the end of the game just to get me a triple-double. Now I know that the NBA has looked at that because I think they took they took
Giannis
Freaks away. Yeah. They took his away because they're like, dude, that doesn't count. We're not giving you that crap. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do what? Don't do that. Like, so, but if I'm him, I'm attacking the boards. Like at some point, if I'm like, wait, I got 12 and 13 and I just need 5 rebounds, man. Let me get down here and get dirty. But it's and you can also tell though, Anthony Edwards, he clearly hurt his shoulder. He's a little banged up because towards the end you could see he kept working it. They put the tape on it. Scary fall. He flipped over the top of another player. And thank goodness he's athletic enough and his teammate kind of caught him. He didn't Draymond Green a bit, which he should have, and just completely caught him in the air like Draymond did Klay Thompson when he was like, "Oh, that's my ring. I got to catch it." Like you've got to see Anthony Edwards fall it, and you got to lay your body on the line. Like you got to slide under him like John Wick or something. Like you got to do some Avengers type stuff to save Anthony Edwards. But clearly he was hurting a little bit. You could see he didn't have like even his shot. It looked like he was forcing it a little bit. Like he didn't have full range of motion in that left arm to kind of hold the ball up. And every single 3-pointer he shot was short. Every single one. Every single one. He made one. Other than that, every single one was short. And so either one, like you said, legs could be tired. 2, just, not getting full extension on an arm. But 3, after you miss about 8, pass the ball. Like the 3 is not your ball anymore. Like give it up. Like drive to the lane. Like he's an explosive, powerful. I mean, every time he got to the lane, he got there. Even the foul, which I think was BS, that they challenged and they gave it back. Because you can say Anthony Davis didn't hit him, but the foul was on the second guy that hit his arms.
Right.
Like the second guy hit his wrist and arms. And that's why I feel like, not to say the NBA wanted the Lakers to play the Grizzlies, but after the Grizzlies tweeted, "We want the Lakers," the NBA is like, okay, let's do this now. We got some drama. Like they didn't tweet, "We want the Timberwolves" because we beat them last year. They tweeted, "We want LeBron. We want to take the king down. We want to take the king off the throne." And so the fact that they did that, the NBA is like, all right, look, let's. Like you see what the college game did when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, 9.9 million people watched, one of the biggest watches ever because Caitlin Reese, she's talking, the LSU Tigers are talking, they can't see me. Okay, we got to get this. Now Dylan Brooks puts that out there. I want the king. I want LeBron. Okay, you about to get him. You about to get him for 6 or 7 games. And the Lakers look good. And if they're healthy, if Anthony Davis can stay healthy, that's the problem. Anthony Davis gets hurt at some point. I was hoping it was the Timberwolves game, but there was a couple times where he got hit, he fell, he got limped off. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yeah,
here he's coming out, and he stayed in.
And Schroeder, I thought Schroeder was hurt too, and then he hit the
ankle,
almost the game-winning shot there at the end of regulation.
Yeah, I know. Because Anthony Davis, because everybody's like, oh, that shouldn't have been a foul. That was a foul. Like you can't hit the 3-point shooter. You got to give him space to land. He's got to feel protected when he gets up in the air. But Sam, this is where I go with this. So I do agree with you on the coach has to call a timeout at some point, maybe use more of them. Maybe get an offensive set going when you realize they're not getting themselves out of this funk. Because some teams can play out of it. Like if you have Caitlin Clark, if you have LeBron James, if you have James Harden, you can get yourself out of a funk. Like you can if you have Giannis, you can find a way. Just give it to Giannis. Let's give it to Harden. Let him cook. You will find a way. But Anthony Edwards is the guy you say let him cook, and he was not cooking well. The gas was off. The heat was not paid. The bills, the lights, like nothing. The food, the fridge was bare. There was no room at the end, as they said in the Bible. Like nothing was working. So you've got to talk to him as a coach. And that's why I do blame Chris Finch a little bit, because if that's me and my analytics guys, you got all these coaches on the sideline that they help you in practice. But during the games, they got to be able to tell you something. Like that's why football coaches, everybody has a headset. Even if you don't have anything to say, everybody has a headset so they can all hear what the coaches are saying. At some point, these coaches, the analytics guy has to say, or the stats guy has to come over with the stats and say, hey, look, man, Anthony Edwards, has missed the last 9 threes. You got to tell him, coach, stop shooting threes. Like nothing. There was nothing on that coaching staff that spoke into it. And then lastly, before we jump over, because we're going to talk a little bit more, we're going to talk a little bit more Timberwolves because that's the topic of the day. And then we're going to jump into this fantasy football conspiracy. I'll tell you this. It's Kirk Cousins. There's a conspiracy in the NFL for fantasy football against Kirk Cousins, whether they're trying to sandbag it so people pick him up and get him in the late rounds, and then they get to win their fantasy league because Kirk Cousins kills it, or the math just ain't mathing and people don't like Kirk Cousins, and they're putting a lot more emphasis on something else. And I kind of have an idea of what they're putting an emphasis on. But before we get to that topic, Sam, last one. This is what I say about the way this team is constructed. There has to be something else going on too, because in a must-win game, you punched your brother in the chest. You didn't punch him in the face. You didn't slam him and keep fighting. You punched him in the chest and you ran away like a little boy. Like that's what a little brother does to a big brother and then runs and hopes mom helps. Like you punch your big brother and then you run to mom or dad so that he can't beat you up. And that's what Rudy Gobert did. So that showed me there was no true aggression in this. There was no true malice or anger in this. This wasn't the malice in the palace where all of a sudden the Pistons are fighting. No. The Pacers are fighting the Pistons fans. Like it wasn't that. This was a guy that just got mad at being called the B word, punched his brother in the shoulder, chest area, and then ran. From there, something happened. So I don't know if Rudy Gobert is upset, because the Timberwolves never actually said they suspended him. They just said he's not traveling. It could be like he could have done that to himself. I don't want to travel with y'all. I'm sick of this. Get me out of here. Trade me back. I want to go somewhere else. Like, I just don't understand that, because in a must-win game, I'm taking everybody. If Draymond Green knocked out Jordan Poole last week, he's still going to play in the playoffs. Like, they're like, look, you got to stop punching this dude in the face. But we need you. We got games. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they need you. So Draymond, Jordan, make up. Y'all can fight after the season. Pay-per-view. I guarantee you put gloves on, they would sell. I don't know how much, but people would watch like the first couple of swings and they're like, okay, neither of these dudes can fight. But there's something else going on in my opinion, because you don't just not fly. Now, if he does play this game, maybe it was a 1-game suspension. If he doesn't play this game for your season, because you lose, you're done. There's something else going on. Like, because they've never fully came out saying he's suspended or he's fined or whatever. Like, it was he's just not traveling with the team.
So the team's tweet does say Gobert out -team suspension.
Oh, okay. So they did finally say it.
Yep.
Got it. Because at first they didn't say it. They just said Rudy Gobert or whatever. Speculation. Rudy Gobert's not going to travel with the team. So team suspension. Do they say it? But they don't say how long. Correct?
They do not. No.
So, yeah, I don't get that. And I get it. Principles matter. Morals matter. You got to set a precedent. You can't say you can punch your teammate and then still get to play on this team. I get it. You got to set boundaries. But also, you can't punch walls. Like, what does that look like? What does that suspension look like? You attacked a wall. You can't play next year. Like, come on now. What are we doing? But this is a joke, people. but for the everydayers, man, the people that understand what we're about, you know what I'm about. I'm about putting the ball in the basket. I'm about Anthony Edwards being that guy. I've said this all season, and y'all know this. For the everydayers, they know Anthony Edwards has to be the guy for them to win games long-term, playoff runs. So Anthony Edwards hopefully coming back home. It's a familiar basket. He'll have time to rest because they don't play again on Friday. He'll get to rest that shoulder. To make it through a game, it's going to be sore as heck tonight. It's going to be, or tomorrow. Yeah, tonight and tomorrow. And then hopefully ice, stem, best trainers in the world, little Minnesota food, sleeping in his own bed for a couple of days, practicing here. He'll be ready to go Friday against whoever wins tonight. But I think that's the key for this team. It has to go through Anthony Edwards. It has to. And if it doesn't, then you got to blame the coach, because the coach can call that. Like, there's no way the Bulls aren't going through Michael Jordan. If Scottie Pippen took about 5 threes, Phil's calling the T. Come on. Hey, you got to get the ball to Michael. I don't care about that he's going to make a documentary one day and there's cameras around. Stop it, Scottie. You're not the guy right now. It's Mike's team. We need 6 championships. Give the ball to Mike. And that's where Anthony Edwards is to me. He's the Michael Jordan. Karl-Anthony Towns is legit. Karl-Anthony Towns is definitely a great player. He's unguardable at times because he can shoot that 3. When he gets in the lane, if he gets a mismatch, he needs to go a little bit faster, but he's good there. but Anthony Edwards is your fire starter. And that's kind of where I go with that. But we will definitely break down this a little bit more of what's next for the Timberwolves. And if they lose, what's next? What could the team have looked like? And again, 11. They win 11 of those 19 games where they have the lead, 10 plus points late in the game. They're the number 1 seed. They only needed 11 games to get to 53 wins, and they're the number 1 seed in the West. That's like, I remember Glenn Macy used to say that. It's a game of inches. He'd say the difference in our season being 8-3 and 3-8 is a blink of an eye. If you blink and you miss that moment, we're going to lose this game. If you are alert and you make the play and you stay in this game for the entire game, 4 quarters, I need you 4 quarters, we'll win this game. And I love that saying because you see it with the Timberwolves now. The Vikings, they didn't blink. They went 13-4. The Timberwolves, I mean, their eyes must be dry because they are blinking like a mug. And they're not 53 wins in this because they 11 of the night, 50% of those games. Just win more than like 52% of those games, and you're in this. Analytics will show. And I'm guessing the Nuggets have done it. They've closed games out. I'm guessing the Grizzlies have closed games out. The Kings have closed games out. The Timberwolves have not. That's a big number. 19 times. It's a big number. But we are going to get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back after this.
We are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. The NBA play-in is officially here. And hey, Wolves didn't win, but the Wolves covered last night, losing by 6 in overtime. New customers can get a no-sweat first bet and join the action at FanDuel. They can get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if the first bet doesn't win. Bet on everything you can imagine, every single sport available on the safe, secure FanDuel Sportsbook app. You can also stack your bets up within the same game for the much-anticipated same-game parlays that Ron talks about so often. He loves them. We all love them. FanDuel.com/LockedOn for a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, I want to thank everybody for making the Ron Johnson Show your first listen. Make sure you check out the football party. The football party is great football minds with your local personalities. We got Sam Ekstrom, Luke Inman. We got Reggie Wilson, Arif Hassan, Luke Braun. So some good football. I join from time to time. So thanks for making the Ron Johnson Show your first listen, but make sure you check out the football party as well on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Sam, there's some national stuff going on right now. And of course, the national talk, as I look at my TV, is Timberwolves, Lakers. And there's 2 sides of this. One, are the Timberwolves that good because they made the Lakers go to overtime? Or are the Lakers that bad? And both are bad. And I'm not listening. I just see the at the bottom ticker. Everybody's talking about that. Is this a bad sign? Because this is what the thing says right now. Is this a bad sign that the Lakers needed OT to beat the Timberwolves? So now people are saying because it took them to beat the Timberwolves in OT, is this like Lakers are going to get ran off the court by the Grizzlies? I'll start there, Sam. Like, what are your thoughts there? Is this a bad sign for the Lakers, or is this a resilient sign for the Timberwolves?
Well, people are acting like this was the 1 seed versus the 8 seed. They were 1 game different. Like the Lakers were 1 game better. If the Wolves had beaten them last Friday, then the Wolves would have had the home game. So the Lakers, to me, did not look good. Anyone besides AD or LeBron shooting the ball, I didn't trust at all. And you could see with their outside shooting. I think they started like 7 of 26 from 3, whether it was Reeves or Hachimura or Schroeder until his shot at the end. I didn't really trust anybody on that team. And they were not good when Davis was off the floor. Now, I felt like defensively, it was tough to get in the paint against them. Davis is imposing in there. He is tough to attack because he's so lengthy, gets his hands up to contest the shot. He's a weapon. Like if he can stay healthy, and I know that's a big if, he'll make things tough on them. But Ron, did D'Lo even play in the game?
2
Did
points.
Malik Beasley even play in the game? I know Vanderbilt played some defense, but he didn't score. He had 3 rebounds. Like all the former Timberwolves that we were kind of worried about.
7 points total.
Anything, yeah.
And the Timberwolves player, 7 points total.
I don't know if that's much of a team beyond LeBron and AD. And that should make the Wolves even more frustrated.
Right.
That the Lakers looked kind of as bad as they did for as long as they did, and they couldn't come out with a win.
Yeah, and again, for the everydayers, I'm about stats. So I'm a stats guy on Vikings Game Day Live. I love to bring the stats. Not an analytics guy. I do like stats, though, and I don't know if that sounds stupid. That might sound stupid. Because analytics guys, I feel like they live and die by every single analytic within this game. Like, if you're in the left hash and then you throw the ball to the right, and then I don't do all that. I love the stats side of it because I feel like there's a trend within it, and just something to keep an eye on. But here's where I go with these stats from this game. The Timberwolves at one point were shooting over 59% from the field. And I think that was late in the third quarter. Their fourth quarter was so bad, they finished the game at 43%. They were like 1 for 16, I think, down the stretch. 1 for 16. At one point, they went on a 14-2 run, and then they went 1 for 16. That is horrible. And I think 8 of those shots were Anthony Edwards. That's what's even worse. And when you think about this, Sam, you look at the three-pointers. 39% from three. I mean, that's crazy. They're almost 40% from three. And Mike Conley was a big part of that. Like, Mike Conley was lights out. The Lakers, 32. Timberwolves from the field, 43. Lakers, 41. Free throws, 93. Lakers, 91. You look at total rebounds. That's the difference. Anthony Davis absolutely obliterated the offensive boards. He killed the Timberwolves. Rebounds total, but offensive rebounds, 12-4.
Mm-hmm.
12-4. The Lakers out offensive rebound, meaning putbacks, 12-4. Anthony Davis was a man amongst boys. Now, defensive rebounds, 36-33. So closer there. But offense, they got obliterated, which put them at 37-48 for rebounds total. Assists, 30 in the Timberwolves' favor to 27. Blocks, without Rudy Gobert, the edge was the Timberwolves, 11-7. So you add Walker Kessler, I mean, who knows? You look at steals, 13-8. Again, they had like 4 late game steals. That gave them a chance to get back in the game. Here's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Turnovers. 20-20. It should have been 19-20 because Kyle Anderson at the end of the game, point shaving. Like, I don't know what he was doing up there thinking he has handles. They call him slow-mo for a reason. Like, bro, you are not him. You are not that guy. Like, you are a decent shooter. You're 6'9", you're a good NBA player, you're one of the best in the world. That's not your game, no. You're not about to James Harden this guy at the top of the key. Just pass the ball or do a normal crossover. Like, you're not him. You are not him. And I love Kyle Anderson's game because he does not back down from LeBron. Like, most guys were going at LeBron. And again, maybe this is because this is 40-year-old LeBron and not, 22-year-old LeBron or 25-year-old LeBron, where he's bouncier. So guys were not afraid to go after him, but some guys went after him and still got their shot blocked. McLaughlin.
He was terrible.
Oh yeah.
Hey, let me ask you one more question. If you're looking at the stats, does it have fast break points? Because I felt like, Ron, whenever the Wolves had a run out, like either off a steal or a defensive rebound, I thought they messed it up. Like, they either couldn't make the layup, passes, they got blocked, they threw it. I felt like they kind of botched all of those 2-on-1s or 1-on-1s down the floor, and they couldn't convert in the fast break.
No, it doesn't say it on this. This is just the quick stats. Okay. The only other ones it has on here that this is the end. So the end is where it's like it's clear as day to me. Points in the paint, 54-36. 54-36. They got killed in the paint. Anthony Davis again, just a man amongst boys. And then fouls. And I saw Bill, what's his name?
Simmons?
Yeah, he tweeted that keep being you, NBA, which means your refs wanted the Lakers to win this game. 26 personal fouls for the Timberwolves to 11 more fouls went the way of the Lakers. The Lakers got 11 more fouls called in their favor. 11. You look at some of the hits, some of the like guys going to the lane and they're calling like offensive foul, and LeBron is still moved. Like, I get it. It's LeBron and we're happy he's playing defense, in this, win or go home situation, or win or go to the AFC and host another game. But some of those weren't fouls because they were banging the Timberwolves and they weren't getting that same call. Anthony Davis was doing everything he could to tie up Karl-Anthony Towns. It's just two guys playing hard going to the ground. You can't call a foul on one of them and not the other. Like, come on. Like that, but 26-15. So that's where the game was lost, like, or not lost, but that's where they gave him a chance to get back in the game, like through fouls, clock stop. And now they're getting more, a chance to go to the line for, 2 shots. And then, they're in the double bonus. It to me, again, I'm not going to say the refs lost this game because I put this on the coaches, not using their timeouts enough. And like you said, not drawing up sets. But this to me is just, it's eye-opening. The points in the paint and the fouls. Like, and then of course, 20 turnovers. It just can't happen. Here's another, and you're right, on like fast breaks, even like I think it was Taurean Prince who, like, it looked like he got hurt on one. The pass is to Taurean Prince, and it's like he has to know too, like it's awareness of the court. Point guards are wizards, yes. But there's some passes they cannot make. Like, we know you want to catch it because they call it a pocket pass, and they throw it from their pocket, and they want it to, James Harden is the wizard at it. He's the best I've seen at it, where he dribbles. He gets that pick or post, and he just shoots it with that left hand, and it's like magic, like, or behind the back, like James Harden, Mike Conley, like they're great at it. But here's the thing, Taurean Prince, if you know there's 2 guys and you're running down the middle, you do have a slight step on them, the ball is going to come in low. Like he's gonna make a low bounce pass so you can bend down, get it, and then go straight up with it. Like, he made the pass in there and it hit his leg as if like he didn't know it was gonna be a low pass. Like, where did you think it was going? And what are you looking at? Like, just little stuff like that of them not being on the same page. Now, speaking of not being on the same page, Sam, I actually is. If Rudy Gobert comes back Friday, because if he doesn't, they don't really care. They don't really want to win. But does he screw up this chemistry of the fast-paced, moving around type of offense that Reggie Miller talked about, where it was a ton of picks, ton of movement. Everybody knew where they had to be because your bigs, your Kyle Anderson, your Karl-Anthony Towns, and your Taurean Prince can all shoot. So you don't have to bog down and clog the lane. It's everybody's moving around in space. Does Rudy Gobert change the way that team's going to look Friday coming in? Is it going to look the same, or does Chris Finch say, look, we had a 15-point lead on the Lakers, and you're right, 7 and 8 seeds. We had a 15-point lead and we lost. How do we get that 15-point lead and hold it? And that's my question. Is that the case? Like, do you think Rudy Gobert could mess that up, or is it like, look, let's get 2 bigs in there, because again, we're getting killed in the paint 54-36, and we got killed on offensive rebounds 12-4. Points in the paint, offensive rebounds, where that's usually where Rudy Gobert should be helping you out. I don't know if he still has that bounce like he used to back in his day, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when Cat was playing as well as he was in the first 3 quarters, I don't know if he plays that well with Rudy Gobert in the paint. I mean, Cat was so assertive, getting to the rim, backing guys down. I loved it. I loved Cat early in that game. I don't know if that works with Rudy in there, but if you can build a lead with Cat and then have Rudy help protect that lead defensively, I think that's your formula. And I think the Wolves may have to swallow their pride and say, all right, we tried this. It doesn't really work to have you both on the floor at the same time. We're going to have to split you up. Not much overlap. Cat, you help build us the lead. Rudy, you help us protect the lead. And Cat, if you're in foul trouble, then we go to Rudy. But I think Cat's got to be the guy most of the game to help build the lead. I just think I think everything looks better when Rudy's not on the floor, at least on the offensive end.
Yeah, and when you think about this, though, and I'll give you this last one, Anthony Edwards, 9 points. You've got to be a star. 9 points. You look at LeBron James, 30. Anthony Davis, 24. Even Austin Reeves gave him 12. Dennis Schroeder was their guy because D'Angelo Russell only gave him 2, but Dennis Schroeder, 21. That same balance did not go the way of Anthony. If Anthony Edwards has somewhat of a day, just somewhat of a day, 20 points even. He doesn't have to have a 30-er, 20, 18. They win this game. So what is it going to take for Anthony Edwards to realize he's a slasher and goer? And with him only scoring 10 points or less, can the Timberwolves even contend if they win this game? And then can they contend with the Nuggets?
If Anthony Edwards is hurt in a meaningful way, no, they're not going to contend with the Nuggets. His health is probably more critical to me than figuring out like why he wasn't as good in the game. It might have been just the shoulder, like you said. Because if you remember, Ron, Anthony Edwards was phenomenal in the play-in game last year.
Yeah.
And he was really good in the
alive.
playoff series. He was awesome. Like, so I'm not worried that Anthony Edwards melts under the bright lights. He's shown enough times that he doesn't. So if it's injury related that held him back, that is a problem. That's going to be a problem against the Nuggets if they advance. I think they can win the game on Friday without him, but in a 7-game series against Murray and Jokic, yeah, it's not going to be good if you don't have a fully engaged Edwards.
Yeah, and that's the key. He has to be fully engaged. He has to be like, he didn't look super confident. Like normally, he has that confidence, that bounce, and I just didn't see it. That's what's crazy. Well, we're gonna jump into this last segment, and I'm looking forward to this one because this is my conspiracy segment. Conspiracy Theory 101 segment coming up, and I'm gonna tell you the conspiracy of the fantasy footballers and why just Minnesota can't have nice things. Like that's literally what Minnesota is about. There's also some hot topics right now going around on Twitter. I'll throw a couple of those at Sam as well. We'll discuss quick. We got a last quick one coming up, but before we do, we have a word from our sponsors.
We are brought to you today by Built Bar. Everybody was voting at Built March Madness for the past month. That contest is over now. You voted for your favorite bars and puffs, and we've decided on a winner. But hey, you can still load up on Built Bars today at Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON15 at checkout for 15% off. You can also get Built Bars in store at Walmart or at Sam's Club in the pharmacy section. Built.com. They're the best protein bars in the universe. They are low in sugar. They are low in calories. They're high in protein and covered in 100% real chocolate with a bevy of delicious flavors. Built.com or Walmart or Sam's Club. Head there today.
Well, Sam, this is the fun part of the show that I'm looking forward to. It's the Conspiracy Theory 101. Dun, dun, dun. For your everydayers out there, you guys know my feelings about Kirk Cousins. I think he's one of the, he's an avid Marvel fan. I like that. He's a Disney guy, so I agree with that. He's a really good passer. What Kirk Cousins doesn't do, and let me read this list off to you, Sam. There's some fantasy football pre-draft, pre-everything. And here we go with this. So this is before the draft. So that's kind of what they're saying. Like, hold up, don't get mad. I'm going to start with the tight ends first, Sam. The 2023 fantasy football, and this is from ESPN, the 2023 fantasy football rankings for tight ends. Travis Kelce, of course, is 1. Mark Andrews is 2. TJ Hawkinson of the Minnesota Vikings is 3. Darren Waller of the New York Giants, I actually like that one, is 4. You got George Kittle with Waller over Kittle, but whatever. Waller, then Kittle, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, and then David Njoku. Receivers, no secret here. Justin Jefferson is 1. Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and Jalen Waddle. Now you go to quarterbacks. The first one that's perplexing to me is Josh Allen is 1 over Patrick Mahomes. Well, what does Josh Allen do a little bit better than Patrick? He runs. He runs. He's a big quarterback. He'll be healthy next year. He played hurt most of the year and still had a dominant year with that elbow or whatever he hurt. Then you got another running quarterback, Jalen Hurts. You got Joe Burrow, not such a running guy, but then you got another running quarterback, Lamar Jackson. You got another running quarterback, Justin Fields. You got Justin Herbert. He's a passer. Trevor Lawrence, he's a passer. Daniel Jones, another runner. Daniel Jones ahead of Kirk Cousins. Wow. And then you got Dak Prescott, another mobile quarterback. So the theme for the quarterbacks for 2023 rankings for fantasy football is if you can run, I'm going to draft you. And now Joe Burrow, you're just going to throw the crap out the ball because you now have, I don't know if Irv Smith's going to change anything Joe Burrow's done, but he does have Jamar Chase and he has Tyler Boyd and he has T. Higgins. Like, that's ridiculous. That's 3 good receivers that could be 1. Like, I don't know about Tyler Boyd, but T. Higgins could be the 1 somewhere else. He could be the 1 for the Chiefs easily. And that's what a lot of people were hoping he would leave the Bengals and go to the Chiefs or go somewhere else. But he's like, look, I'm going to stay a Bengal. I want to change my number to 5. I'm about to go back to my college days where I said the Vikings should have drafted him. I remember that year. I think that was the same year as Tyler Johnson because he was the same class as Joe Burrow. And I'm like, boom, Vikings, you should get him in the second round. Nope, we're not going to do it. So whatever. But here's where I go with this, Sam. Yep. The math to me doesn't math. It doesn't add up because if Justin Jefferson's 1 and TJ Hawkins is 3, how is Kirk Cousins at least not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I get it. Not 6. Because he's not a runner. But 7, 8, and 9, and 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. To me, Curtis Cousins should be in there. Curtis DeMarcus Cousins should be in that list because you have the number 1 receiver. You have the number 3 tight end. That's 4,000 yards right there. That's because one's going to get you, Justin Jefferson might get you 1,800 again, maybe 2K. We'll see. TJ is going to get you 1,000. So that's 3,000 yards. You're going to get 1,000 yards from CJ Ham, KJ Osborne, and Alexander Madison. Like, that's 4,000 yards. How is he not in the top 10? But that's what I like. Primetime football and all this, and Kirk Cousins is a 50-50 quarterback lifetime. Who gives a crap? This is 2023 fantasy football. He's going to throw for 4,000 plus yards again. Now, I know they're not reading the tea leaves like, oh, they just re-signed their fullback. They just got the tight end from the Ravens. So they're going to be a running team. They're going to treat him more like Brock Purdy. Don't lose us the game. Our running game is going to take over. Maybe, but I don't think so. Like, I don't think so. I do know Adam Thielen left. I don't know if that's part of it. They don't have a true 2 receiver right now. Maybe that's part of it, but you can't have the number 1 and number 3 tight ends in the NFL in fantasy, and then you're not in the top 10 at least. Like, you're not even 10. Mm-hmm. Like, come on. So to me, I just think that's hate on Kirk Cousins because they just don't like him. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the last 3 years, I looked this up, Cousins was 11th, 11th, and 7th in fantasy points. Last year, he was 7th. Boom. Here's the thing about Kirk. He might not be the best average score per week in fantasy, but he never gets hurt, Ron. So over the course of a season, he'll play 17 games. Josh Allen last year missed time. Jalen Hurts missed time. Other quarterbacks that are better than Kirk Cousins from a fantasy standpoint are probably going to miss some games.
Yeah, Dak missed games too, didn't he? Dak Prescott missed games. And he actually wasn't very high in fantasy last year. He was like 18th, but that's probably because he missed games. Yep.
So that's my point, is that you're getting kind of a high floor with your fantasy pick there, because Cousins you put him in your starting lineup every week and you ride it out over the course of a season. He's not going to get you those 35-point games, but total, he's going to deliver and probably end up in the top 10 or right on the edge.
Right. And this is the thing, though. This is a group of people that don't watch the games. They don't watch Minnesota games because you can hear it in their voice when people break down the Vikings. Like, they say, oh, Justin Jefferson is this good, and TJ Hawkins is, but I don't trust Kirk Cousins. Why? Like, what did you watch last year that you wouldn't trust him? Like, the dude didn't make mistakes. Like, he didn't like flinch under the bright lights. Like, he made every possible throw he could. The Bills game, he never buckled. The Giants game, never gave up. The Colts game, never gave up. But yet you don't trust him? That's bogus. That's like, I'm just going to go with everybody else and say Kirk Cousins is just a middle of the road. Like, I don't know why he got the guaranteed contract, blah, blah. Like, people are going to feed into that narrative. But you can't lie about what happens. The man puts the ball in the places where it needs to be. And that's just lazy reporting to me. That's just people just, like you said, he finished 7th last year. So what changed last year in this offseason, other than losing Adam Thielen, that's going to change this? Nothing. Like, that's what I don't get, is like when he, and when you talk about touchdowns for a quarterback, this is a team last year, because again, that's, I know you don't watch it. Historically, and we only have 1 year of historical notes, so we can't really say historically, but historically, they throw the ball in the red zone. Like, Kevin O'Connell wanted to throw the ball, like, because we would even get mad. Like, dude, you got 3 downs from the 3. Run the ball 3 times with Dalvin Cook. We would say that, but that's not Kevin O'Connell, because he's thinking the same thing. Like, they're thinking it too. Like, they're thinking like they're going to run the ball 3 times. Now, Jalen Hurts, they're going to run it 3 times from the 5. They're going to quarterback sneak it from the 5 3 times. Like, that's why the NFL, I think, is changing that rule, because you cannot no longer just push him in the butt and submarine forward. But when you think about this red zone type of plays that Kevin O'Connell does, like, that's not going to be a handoff to Dalvin Cook when you're on the 3-yard line. It's going to be a pass, whether it's a screen, whether it's a shovel. Like, Kevin O'Connell sneakily gets Justin Jefferson touchdowns in his receivers' passes that like a lot of old school people hate, because they're like, look, that's not a pass. He just tossed it forward. It's a handoff. But nope, he tossed it forward. So instead of doing a jet sweep behind him, you just do it forward. Toss it. Just don't hand it off. Just toss it up in the air. It's a pass. It's a pass. And one, it's less chance of you to fumble because you're just tossing it soft and he's going to see it, catch it, and keep going. There's no mesh point, but it's a pass. And Kevin O'Connell does that. So, in my opinion, I just think they should be in the top 10. Or Kirk Cousins, sorry, because that does not make sense to me. Here's some quick ones, Sam, before we get out of here. Really one quick. It is random, but Chris Boyd, I don't know if you saw this drama on Twitter. Chris Boyd got berated by a couple fans because he was telling people, I'll send you a jersey if you vote for me and show me you voted for me to go to the Pro Bowl. And all of a sudden, it was like thousands of people sent him a message, and now he hasn't sent him a jersey because I see people and he's saying blame the team, like the team wouldn't allow me to get 1,000 jerseys. And so I don't know if there's like a discount pro, because I do know the trainers, you have to order them and then or the equipment manager, you order them and they'll get them, but you pay, like you don't just get free jerseys. And so I don't think he realized, let's say he has to pay $30. If he has to pay $30 times 1,000 jerseys, that's 30 grand. Now, granted, the man made what, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 last year. I don't even know what he made last year, but $30K just to a bunch of fans to go to. Did he even go to the Pro Bowl? Like, did he actually get? Because I know he got votes from them. Did he actually get in?
I don't think.
I think he got snubbed. Yeah, I don't think
he made the Pro Bowl. Yeah.
So I don't know if he said if I make the Pro Bowl, I'm gonna see y'all jerseys. But and then he put out a secondary tweet that had his Instagram story saying, and he was very specific. He said, "This is for my teammates and the fans and those that rode with me, not the coaches." Oh, no. And he did. He said 2 coaches. He said, and Coach Durante and Coach something else. So he only said this is for 2 coaches. Like, he's very specific. And so then, of course, people are like, oh, so you don't roll with KOC or Kwesi? You ain't feeling them? Like, So Chris Boyd, Chris Boyd on his way out the door is just like, and then somebody was like, oh, he's just a special teamer. We can replace him. And he's like, you can't replace me. Really? Like, I don't know. Like, I get it. You like Slater for the whatchamacallit, for the New England Patriots. Yeah. He was consummate Pro Bowler. Devin, like, there's some Pro Bowlers where you're like, okay, I get it, but you're not a returner. You're a gunner. And so I don't know if you're saying like your energy or you're just really high up on yourself, but some people need to like just humble yourself a little bit sometimes. Like, it's okay to not respond to everybody. Like, because then it makes you look bad. Like saying like, oh, they'll never replace me. Like, I get it. Like, have that bravado, have that confidence, but it's okay to be humble and not respond and just ignore idiots like that. But that was just one quick one. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? 1,000 Jersey Gate. Fans are saying they didn't get their jersey for giving them a Pro Bowl vote.
Yeah. Can he just get like a jersey, like a t-shirt jersey? Maybe that saves him a little money. He gets them like half price. Maybe he gets them a little cheaper. I think it's cool that fans kind of rallied around Chris Boyd last year. They're like, oh, this like really gritty special teams guy. We love him. And, I don't know if Chris Boyd will have a long NFL career because he's not really a great cornerback, and it's hard to make a life for yourself as a special teamer. But I liked his attitude. I liked his energy, but you got to be self-aware sometimes when you're doing stuff like that. Yeah, especially if you know, like, you don't know how long you're gonna be a Cardinal, and other teams are able to see your how you act towards the fans, and he wasn't negative, but it's just like just let it go, just move on, just go to the next spot, because one day you might end up having to come back to the Vikings. Like, you might want to come back. So that's what I'll tell you. Don't burn bridges, because you never know what bridge you need to cross back over to get to where you need to get to. So, but that'll do it for us today, man. I want to thank everybody that continues to like, share, download, comment, Spotify, iHeartMedia, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you get your social media platform, your podcast, and you consume it. Just make it the Ron Johnson Show your first listen. But that'll do it for us today. If you want endless Vikings talk with local experts, just make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Sports Minnesota channel on YouTube. I want to thank you. Have a great day.